All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sim Experience South Africa Toyota GT4 Cup. This is round 3, coming to you from the Zwartkops Raceway in Pretoria in South Africa. This is the third round of our 10-round championship. I'm your commentator, Dennis Mitchell. I'm joined by Sean Woodgate. Sean is here. I'm not sure if you're there yet, Sean. I saw you in Discord. Are you there? Can you hear me? All right.
I've made setting changes, Dennis. Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
Hope you can hear me.
I can. Good evening and welcome.
Right, my almost my home track, the one I probably know the best.
That's good. Apart from Kyle Army, I'm sure. All right. Yeah. Well, this, of course, is round 3. So this is the schedule coming up. So this is round 3 of our 10-round championship. We'll be following this by Alton Park in the United Kingdom. Then we'll head over to the classic Kyle Army. So back in time into the 70s. Nice, fast and flowing track. And, of course, Harvey Goos, who's one of our drivers, has driven there in the real world and raced there successfully. Then we head over to America for round 6 for Road Atlanta. Then back to South Africa for Aldo Scribante. Then off to Germany for Hockenheim. Then back to South Africa for the current version of Kyle Army. And the final round in Spain at the Valencia circuit. Just to look at our point system. This, of course, is the point system. We get 22 points for race victory, and it goes all the way down to 15th place. You get 1 point. There's 1 point available for pole position and 1 point for fastest lap in both races. The drivers that qualify the top 5, well, qualifying as a whole, carries over into the second race. So you qualify for race 1, that sets the grid. In race 2, it's the same apart from the top 5, which gets reversed. So if you qualify in 5th place, you will start race 2 in 1st place. All right, I think the drivers are almost on track. Let me just have a look. I'm just going to double check. I believe the server is about to kick over into qualifying, so we'll head over there now in a moment. While I just get everything correct, I'm a little bit caught off guard here because I'm running in load shedding at the moment, so apologies for that. Just going to jump to our live feed. All right, so this is the live feed. We're on board at the moment with Gert Beerkes, our championship leader. I believe the server is busy changing over. That's why his car has suddenly gone invisible. All right, we are now live for qualifying. So the drivers will head out shortly. But of course, this is qualifying for round 3 of the Sim Experience South Africa Toyota GT4 Cup, coming to you live from the Zwartkops Raceway in Pretoria. The 15-minute qualifying session. I am your commentator, Dennis Mitchell, joined once again by Sean Woodgate. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Dennis. Yes, Zwartkops, nice. Also a short circuit, 2.4 kilometers. So slightly longer than what Knockhill was. But a tricky circuit, but nice opportunities for passing.
All right, as we just have a look at our schedule, that's just what's coming up for the guys that didn't catch the build-up. I'm just going to show our point system once again. I'll just put that up on screen. Everyone can read through it at their own leisure, or pause if you need to pause. But our current point standings coming into this round. We have Gert Beerkes in 1st place on 77 points. Jean-Louis de Toy in 2nd place on 70 points. So still a 7-point advantage for Gert Beerkes. Adi Chameleon has dropped down to 3rd place, but he's still in the hunt and showing good pace here tonight. And then, of course, in 4th place, Neil, after that brilliant victory last week. So we'll keep an eye on him. He could be an underdog for the championship. Jason Underwood definitely working his way forward as the championship works. I think he's also had a bit of a bad round. So that round will get dropped. And I think when we get to round 4, the dropped rounds kick in, and then he'll definitely be up in the mix. Peter Murray also doing solid work the last 2 meetings. So I think he's going to be working his way up. Picky Thunder as well. So lots to play for. Nash didn't exactly have the greatest round the last round, but definitely had the pace. So a lot of guys to keep your eyes on tonight.
Right, the whole track full of cars now, as everybody gets to make maximum use of the qualifying session. And if I look at the times that they were doing in practice, the fastest guys were doing in about a minute, just over a minute. But you can expect that they'll probably push that to get it below a minute for qualifying.
Yeah, Gerrit is the pace setter at the moment, and he's on a good lap at the moment. Of course, it's showing PB or personal best as well as fastest overall because the laps have just started, so we'll see how that evolves. But at the moment, looking like a good lap.
The first one he'll probably be the first across the line, and he will set a time of 101.5, but that'll be improved upon, I can guarantee you, by somebody. And that corner they come through there runs parallel with a public road. It's right at the bottom now of this view. That actually has more than one line. I'm not sure with the Toyotas, but I know in the single-seater Formula Vs, there were a couple of guys that showed that there actually is a little bit of grip on the outside of the apex as well. So you can catch somebody unawares by just hold on tight and sticking to the outside line.
Let's go on board with Timo at the moment. He's just set the second fastest time. Let's have a lap on the Zwartkops circuit. Oh, as he runs wide there, unfortunately.
We always manage to do that, don't we?
Let's try with Jason.
Right. Let's see where Jason is. He's
Final
actually
turn.
coming down the hill to turn 8, the final corner. Zwartkops is a right-hand circuit, so turn 8 and turn 1 are the two left-handers, and the only turn left. This is turn 1. It's slightly off camera, believe it or not. So you actually get a bit of oversteer, which you have to correct by pointing the wheels. This is turn 2. It has quite an elevation drop, and this is off, and the rifle range grandstand in the distance. Turn 3 runs the back straight along next to the national road, and that's the gravel strip, which is where you don't want to be. This is turn 4, which, as I said, it could have a bit of grip on the outside. Not sure if it works with the Toyotas. Up the hill to the AMG Driver Development Center. That's it on the left-hand side here. This is turn 5. I think it's got a new name here. The building on the left used to be the Zwartkops Owners Club, and that was Kenwood Corner. So that's turn 6. This left-hander here, it's actually, I think they're getting through the gears, accelerating to full speed down the hill. That was turn 7. This is turn 8, the final corner, one that's notorious for losing the back end, and that'll be the checkered flag, and that's one lap around Zwartkops.
And it was a lap good enough for second place.
Yeah, by half a second, so it looks as though the guys were actually really pushing it in free practice, and qualifying you don't want to wreck it. You want to put in a solid lap first and then go for something better than that. So nice to see the Minions racing car also back again. Neil Swartz, one of the new drivers in the classes that we've been commentating on over the years and the months that I've been involved. Ricky Stander, also in 8th, also one of the new drivers. So nice to see that they're in. Oh, there's the back end gone, and it's onto the gravel, and looks as though they're just going to avoid each other. So yes, as I said, there's quite an elevation drop for turn 2, and it's a hairpin as well. So the car wants to go, the back end wants to go everywhere towards the spectators. So you've got to really take it carefully, careful on the throttle as you come out of it, because the front nose is dipping away, and the back end wants to step around if you're on the throttle too fast. That's turn 8. Checkered flag, as we're looking at it on the right hand side there, that little box at the top, that used to be my commentary position at real Zwartkops back in the day. It's air conditioned and everything now, so it's an absolute pleasure.
Definitely would be with this heat that we've had lately.
Yeah, so certainly there's car also. I'm just wondering, this is as they come through rifle range grandstand down the back straight. Now that corner could be tricky as well, and we've had in real life cars that actually get a nice tank slapper, and they actually hit the barrier there where it's between the front and the back straights. So I've seen cars upside down in that position already in real life, and the driver not holding his wits about him and releasing the seatbelt, and then finding himself falling on his head on the roof of the car. So yeah, this is turn, there they come past the Zwartkops Owners Club, Kenwood Corner here, which is 4-5. That's turn 6. This is turn 7, the left-hander, and turn 8. One of the few left-handers, well, there are 3, but turn 7, in my opinion, doesn't really count, because although I've seen young lady Kruger put her Polo on its roof out of turn 7, so I suppose it does count as a corner.
And a driver joining us for the first time this season, Ariane Boulder.
He's been in the comments, so he's joined us, but not on track.
Yes, he's unfortunately been preoccupied with life's priorities, but he's able to make it tonight, so hopefully he'll be able to make a few more races, but good to have him with us.
I was very worried when I joined the link for the practice session and only saw 8 cars on track, and I said that's going to be like commentating on paint drying. But we're back on 20, which is where we started the season, if I recall. And 20 certainly is going to keep us busy, because often the race leader gets into the distance and gets away from everybody, and then we go look at all the fights that are happening further down. Just as a point of interest, Sector 1, all best for Jean-Ray de Toy at 22.8 for Sector 1. So he has a personal best for Sector 2, which is a 12.99. So it's a good lap for him. And if he gets Sector 3 right, he goes to pole. 1 minute, 00.865. And that's pole by 0.05 of a second, so that you can't blink an eye that fast. So he takes it away from Gerrit Bekes, and is the Flying Bumblebee going to be back at the Savage Racing car for that pole position? Remember, it's worth a point, and we saw in one of the championships we ran last year that a point or two, if you have a few of those bonus points, they certainly can contribute to your position at the end of the season.
Deeb has made his way up into third place without us noticing, so he's putting up a fight. Picky Stunder currently in fourth. Timo has been demoted down to fifth place at the moment. Jason currently only in seventh place.
I'm impressed by Picky and Neil. They must have some racing experience somewhere, but joining this crowd and making their voices well known in the top 10.
Here comes Jason on a personal best, getting a bit sideways out of the final corner, and that cost him a little bit. Struggling a little bit, I think.
He had personal bests for all 3 sectors, but that doesn't help him go up from 7th position. So 101.8, so he's a full second behind Jean-Ray de Toy.
Monet Deployer also on a personal best. He's got someone in front of him that might be good to help him get around, but it also might distract him. Looked like it kind of distracted him a little bit there. He got sideways as he got on the throttle. You can see the gap between himself and the other car as it's increasing. He's rolling up on the throttle.
10-7.
Car coming out of the pits as Neil comes by.
Yeah. Right, so still Jean-Ray by 0.05 of a second at this stage, with 5.5 minutes to go in the practice session.
Yeah, personal best for D Nash at the moment. Sorry to butt in there.
No problem. D Nash, where does D Nash find himself? He's actually 13th, is much lower than what we would have expected, because he's been showing, as you said earlier, a good turn of speed. Andre Hildebrand is doing very well. One of the, shall we call them the gentleman drivers, the veterans. Where's Harvey Goos? Harvey Goos is at the bottom. That's unusual for Harvey. He knows. I'm not sure if he's well acquainted with this layout of the circuit, but I'm sure he's driven it in real life. But of course, the old circuit used to go very different. I think if we can just keep that car in sight, this is turn 1, and when they turn into turn 2, that short piece there from turn 2 to turn 3 might be, and I stand corrected, a part of the old circuit. The only difference is where it then turns to the right. The old circuit used to go into the Continental Complex and make a loop and go down to the back straight all the way to the drive-in, which is way over the top of the hill and doesn't exist anymore. It's still there. You could see that it was a drive-in, but that circuit was all of 2 kilometers, so this one 0.4 of a kilometer longer. This is where the kart clubhouse used to be many years ago. So yeah, I've been at Zwartkops, giving my age away here. I've been involved at Zwartkops for many years.
And we have quite a few battles going through the field. Just to keep you guys all informed, at the back we've got the gap between Hilke, who is 19th, and Harvey, who is 20th, is 0.013 of a second. So 13 thousandths of a second. Of course, Harvey drives number 13.
Yeah, he'd rather be 13 thousandths ahead of Hilke, but nonetheless.
And Harvey currently in the pits.
interesting. Hilke, I see, has a penalty. Now, if he qualifies 19th, does he then start last and the penalty goes away?
Yes.
Even though he does have... Okay. So he effectively only loses a position, and the other 4 positions are just out the window then because he didn't have a good qualifying session.
Yes, the way the penalty
penalty is
system
served.
works, yes, you have a penalty at 5, it's for this race, or the very next race that you do, it'll be for a race 1. He's got a penalty because of an incident that happened between himself and Jean-Andre. And if you get a second penalty, then that would be a more serious one, and then if you get a third one, then you will then get a race ban, I think is the penalty.
Generally, the racing's been good, and I see one of the things that the steward looked at deemed that to be a racing incident, which also happens. That after all, it is motorsport, and sometimes you just lose control of the car, and the guy behind you happens to be in the wrong place at the right time and drives into you, and it's not an intentional thing that you blocked or on the wrong line. It's just if you lose control, and that's about the way that it goes.
Right, let's do an onboard lap with Andre Hildebrand, who's part of the Alwyn Motorsport team, coming across the line to start a lap.
Yeah, so, and also to be noted at Zwartkops, the start line is halfway down the straight. The finish line is you hardly out of turn 8, and that's the finish line. So they're 2 different locations, the start and the finish line. So this is turn 2. As I said, you can see the elevation change on the right-hand side, those barriers up there. Those are more up where they're coming out of turn 1. Quite a big elevation change through turn 3, the rifle range grandstand. Turn 4, this one, if you go off, don't try and arrest it too quickly or stop the car, because there's a little gravel road up against the barrier that you can actually drive up and back onto the circuit once you get through the gravel trap. Turn 5 at the Mercedes, approaching turn 6, Zwartkops Owners Club on the left, Kenwood Corner, turn 7, they go down the hill. There's a building on the left that used to be the karting commentary tower, there it is, and then turn 8, the last corner on this track. And the checkered flag is there where those, let me see where they've got it, it's just before or just after the commentary position actually. There's also a big gate there that they bring stricken cars in between races. So about there is the finish line, where you see that South African flag waving. That's about the finish line, as we have probably, depending who's in the lead and where he or she is on an active lap. I think it's number 7, Neil Swartz, will probably be the last car. I'm not sure if car number 6 is going to make it across the line, but 7, I think, is Neil. He will probably complete one more lap. Let's have a look what chance. Faratin, meanwhile, has taken pole back again. By 0.067.
And Jason is snuck up back into 3rd place, so he's up there again.
Adib is in 4th, Timo's in 5th, Pakistaner in 6th, Neil Swartz, who was in 8th, I think, he's up to 7th. Monai Deploy 8th, and rounding 9th is Peter Murray and Julian Brains, some experienced SA racer, he's in 10th position. We haven't mentioned Jeffrey Rouse. We spoke to him last year. It's like House, Jeffrey Rouse. So I think that's about qualifying done. So whoever is on a flying, these guys will get another lap in because they crossed the finish line. This car coming up to turn 5, it will be the last lap for Monai Deploy. And Monai is in 8th. Not bringing up any colors on this lap, so I don't think it's going to improve on the 1019. So Timo Smith, I'm not sure if he got across the line.
No, it's showing out lap. He obviously just missed it. So maybe he's just doing a reconnaissance lap to check fuel or something.
No, so Timo, I don't think this lap's going to count much for him at all.
Andre Hildebrand is, though. He's on a personal best. Oh, he's abandoned it. He was personal best, though, in the sector. Aaron Balder, he's on to improve. Personal best sector 1 and sector 2.
From 17th.
And when he finishes this lap, I think we're going to jump to an ad break because I believe everyone else has pitted. And he comes across the line. 15th. Nice improvement there, Aaron.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump to an ad break. We'll be back shortly for race 1.
Until then.
Alright, welcome back everybody to race 1 of the Sim Experience South Africa Toyota GT4 Cup. Round 3 coming to you live from the Zwartkops Raceway in Pretoria. This is race 1, a 20-minute race. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined once again by Sean Woodgate. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Dennis. Welcome everybody to Zwartkops.
Alright, as we now head out for our formation lap, let's have a look at our grid. So, starting in pole position, we have Gerrit Beekes in second place, Jean-Ray du Toit, in third place, Jason Underwood, and in fourth place, Neil Swartz. In fifth place, Adib Gemildian, in sixth place, Timo Smith, in seventh place, Picky Stander, and in eighth place, Mornay Deployer. In 9th place, Peter Murray. In 10th place, Julian Brains. In 11th place, Jeffrey Rouse. And in 12th place, Dinesh Singh. In 13th place, Donovan Vermaar. 14th place, Andre Hildebrand. 15th place, Arjan Balder. 16th place, Donnie Stander. In 17th place, Michael Rabellini. In 18th place, Hilke Verenigde. And in 19th place, Harvey Hoos. Right, it is our grid. We now watch the drivers come around. Gerrit, of course, will be the first to get to the start. He's slowing down to allow the pack to close up. If he bolts away too much, his tyres are going to be cold by the time everyone else gets there.
Once again, there he is. Now they switch to another car. If we stick around, just after the commentary tower, that's the finish line. I think there where that SA flag is waving there. So that's the finish line there. I'm not sure what they've got on R Factor 2, but as you see, the start line is way ahead of the finish line.
Comment that came through from Stan while we were in a ad break saying he can't make it. Unfortunately, load shedding has hit him, so he'll be watching. So good to have you watching at least, Stan. Right, so the drivers now get ready. The timer has started, so we'll be heading off in a moment. Right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Ooh, a bad start there for Jason, I think it was. Or Adib. One of the cars just didn't get off the line very well. One of the cars getting on the outside of the gravel, luckily getting it back. 3 abreast as they come into turn 1. Looks as though everybody's behaving well and staying out of everybody else's way. And down the back straight, Gerrit already has about a 4-car lead just by the fact that he got away from everybody and didn't have to fight the war that was raging through turn 1 and 2.
I'm trying to see who it was. I think it was Julian that had such a bad start because he's gone way back down the field.
No, he's
Oh,
in
in
12th,
the background we have, I think that's Arjan going off in the background there, unfortunately.
No, that's turn 4, and as I said, turn 4 you mustn't try and get it stopped too quickly. You can actually let the rest of it do a lot of the work, and then there is a gravel road up against the barrier that you can use and actually drive back onto the circuit quite easily. Down the hill through turn 7. BMW Centre on the left, that big building at turn 8. So need to give them a mention as well. So Zwartkops very much used for driver training. It also has a skid pan at the bottom. If you were to go straight on out of turn 2 a little bit to the left, you'd end up there at the skid pan. And the driver training there is very, very good. Is that a nudge?
Just a love tap.
Yeah. Who was that? Peter Murray? No, that's 4-0 by the looks of it.
Dinesh and Julian. Dinesh is ahead and Julian is behind.
So just a touch there. So, but that's expected because the corner, as I say, turn 2 is very, very tricky, and there are different lines that people take to it. Turn 5 is just brake hard. Don't go out to the left because somebody's going to dive bomb you on the right hand side and then has the racing line and can then just naturally drift out, and you'll be stuck onto the gravel if you don't yield the position.
Fastest lap now for Gerrit Beekes, 101. Was it 101.5? 101.3, sorry.
And already 3/4 of a second ahead of Jean-Ray du Toit. Although personal best
Jason
in sector. Sure. The purples in Sector 2 go to John Ray, sorry, 1. Sector 1 is John Ray, Sector 2 goes to Timo. So even though Gerrit has the overall best lap, if you were to combine all the best in sectors, the potential base lap is actually still quicker than that.
So Jason making a mistake, allowing Timo pass, and Timo saying, no, your turn, you go, I'll make a mistake. So they're swapping positions by virtue of mistakes.
Yeah, Jason in the black car, Timo in previous racing he had a much brighter livery than this one. You've actually got to go looking for the minion. In one of the previous cars it actually stood out very nicely, but nonetheless it is the colors that they had. Michael Rabellini in the GT4 Toyota classic colors, the black and red, and well, white with black and red.
Yeah,
And
chasing down Donnie Stunder. Donnie Stunder's right in front of him.
Now, Donnie you can't miss in that bright lime green. So he's part of the GDR Racing team. The other half of GDR Racing is Javi Goos, who's gotten ahead of...
Donnie's off.
Oh, turn 2 again. I say again, turn 2 has claimed many a victim, but so also has turn 1. As I say, it's slightly off camber. The car actually wants to drift the back end out, so you've got to counter steer against your nature. The corner's going to the left, and you've got to actually just slightly steer to the right to catch the back end, but you've got to set the car up going into the corner to do that. So it can catch you unawares. Here's what I said exactly. Don't go out and stick it out on the left-hand side, because you're going to get dive bombed up on the right into turn 5 in front of the AMG Mercedes Center.
I think Neil was one of the drivers that went off in the start, because he was way down now and he's slowly working his way forward. So I think had a bad start, didn't qualify where he would like to be, a bit lower down than he should have been, but he definitely got maybe caught up in some of the incidents that took avoiding action, and he's slowly picking off the drivers one by one.
Yep, he's I think just past Donnie Stunder, and he's up into 15th. So, and he is only 0.7 of a second behind Michael Rabellini.
And Jeffrey now right behind Donovan as well. So, and right behind them we have Dinesh. I think Dinesh will be moving forward as well. I think Dinesh has definitely got the pace.
Now Dinesh in 11th. So this gaggle coming up the hill now, this is going to be quite a battle as the guys catch up and close up on each other. Yeah, you've also got to be a little bit defensive depending how close the guy is behind you. Hold the inside line, then drift out to the left, because that's the apex of turn 7. Then drift it out again so that you can drift in for the left-hand apex of turn 8. As you see them use a little bit of the curbing. They've got on the outside of turn 8, what do you call them, sausage curbs. They're terrible things. They upset the cars, and I'm not sure whether they're included in the physics of the R Factor 2 version, but I know that having seen them in real life, they're not nice things to go over. I think they'll shake the filling out of your teeth.
This is now a four-way fight. We've got Julian right behind Dinesh, and of course Jeffrey right up behind Donovan.
Yep. Donovan in 9th, then Jeffrey in 10th, Dinesh 11th, Julian in 12th. So interesting battle that's going along there.
All the different lines, and they all come out much the same.
Yeah.
Jeffrey looking at the inside. Julian on the outside.
Difficult. Not difficult. It's a very defensive line when you're running on that dotted line. As I said before, when the Westbank V8 Racing Series still existed, they used to. Who was it that was off there?
Julian has dropped it.
Turn 7, or just the entry to turn 7. Now, the dotted lines used to be in Westbank V8s. If you decided to take the left of the dotted lines, you had to stay there. If you decided to take the right-hand side of the dotted lines into the corner, you had to stay there, which made for interesting racing to allow for potential overtaking. The marshals stand there for turn 3, the rifle range grandstand. We say that for those that don't know Zwartkops, if you were to leave the circuit at turn 3, go across the road, there's a big shooting range there, and it's interesting. In race day you hear the light calibers and the guys with lots of money spend a fortune in quick succession. Then you hear the hunting rifles go off with one shot at a time, and they make a loud bang. So yeah, that's where we sort of named it ourselves as commentators to know where we are on the circuit. We gave it the name of the Rifle Range Grandstand. That comes out of the days of Continental Corner, which was a left-hander of the loop of the original circuit. So the grandstand stayed exactly where it is. To give you an idea, now, as they come through turn 1, the rest of it there next to you. Then I think this part was potentially part of the old Zwartkops circuit, and it used to turn to the left here with Rifle Range Grandstand on the outside of the circuit there. The circuit would pass just in front of them. Potentially that's already going into the back straight, the old back straight on the way to the drive-in, if you consider where the stand is. Turn 4, tricky, nice and fast. He's keeping it out. I think he's just far enough ahead that he doesn't have to take a defensive line, can hang it out left, drift onto the apex on the right and out to the left again. Back to the inside, back to the outside in the change of direction. At turn 6 here for turn 7, BMW center on the left and turn 8.
It looks like Monet lost a little bit of traction out of the tight right-hander.
One thing about Zwartkops, I think you can relax a little bit on the front straight. Yes, I say where they've got to slightly drift the car just because of the way the circuit, the embank or the circuit is banked. It's very slight, but I've spoken to many a driver that says you need to know about it, and it just changes the way that you approach the corner compared to a corner that is flat. And that's turn 3 at Rifle Grandstand, turn 4. It's a fast, I wouldn't say flat out, depending on the caliber of the car, but the big Westbank V8s, of course, they feather and then enter the corner and then floor it again going through it. I think in some of the smaller classes, they actually go through turn 4 flat out. Turn 5 coming up the hill to Mercedes is on the brakes, change the gears, turn into the corner, drift it out again. Now you've got to stay out and hopefully nobody comes up on your inside, drift in or turn in onto the apex, out again to the left-hand apex of turn 7, and then out of that you drift again to the right-hand side to be able to turn left for the apex of turn 8.
Jeffrey's got Dinesh all over him now. Just put the driver profile up for Dinesh as while you were talking. We'll get back to it now. Jeffrey's looking up the inside, a little bit of contact.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, you just have a nudge like that, and what did he lose? 3 positions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dinesh going wide there as well.
I think maybe he's giving the position back, thinking that he was the one that made the mistake. Let's see, where's Dinesh now?
Now 11th.
Yeah, so Donovan in 12th. Ooh, Donovan comes up on him a bit fast and taking evasive action, all doing it on his own. And that's where he's lucky to get it there because, and I think he'd already slowed down before he got to the gravel arrestor bed. So that's where you often see cars, the guys actually try and bring it back to the circuit too quickly. The back end steps around and then in your excitement trying to accelerate, it digs in and then you're stranded in the gravel. The double yellows come out and then the low bed comes and drags you out of the gravel and then race carries on as per normal. But luckily he didn't get stuck and managed to drive through it again. Turn 2 with a change in elevation. The guys all seem to have the hang of it now. I think they had enough time in practice to get used to it. And all the fun of the fair, I actually need to look at. I was thinking with the amount of races, we've got 9 minutes to go, so probably 9 laps, and if we're lucky, 10. So depending where the race leader is, Gerrit. And talking about Gerrit, he's 2.5 seconds into the distance. So once again, with Jean-Ray de Toy getting the bonus point at this stage for the fastest lap by 0.03 of a second or thereabouts. So 0.03 of a second that Jean-Ray is quicker than Gerrit. But their best times are all very, very close. Actually, it's Gerrit and Jean-Ray that are in a league of their own, because Jason, Adib, and Timo, they're about half a second further back. So Gerrit and Jean-Ray running in the 101s are very, very quick. And that's why they're first and second.
We see how much Timo is challenging at the moment for, what's that, for 4th place. Adib giving him a hard time there. Or I should say Timo giving Adib a hard time.
Yeah, it's only 0.4 of a second between the two of them, and Adib is more than 3 seconds adrift of Jason. So I think first, second, and third is pretty much decided. Jason's almost 3 seconds behind Jean Ray, and Jean Ray's 2.5 seconds behind Gerrit. So I don't think unless something untoward happens, that first, second, and third position is going to change for this race. But fourth and fifth, that's very close. Picky Standard's not too far off, only a second behind Timo Smit.
Thanks for watching the battle up front. With just over 7 or just under 7.5 minutes, just over 7 minutes to go, maybe he's preserving his tyres a little bit and it might come in, but I don't think that'll play a big role at the moment with this track. I think tyre wear shouldn't be an issue with a 20-minute race.
Another one that, if you can pick it up, Mornay Deploy, number 38 in 8th position, is only half a second behind Peter Murray. And if you look at their last laps, Mornay a 102.4 and Peter a 102.9. So 7th and 8th position is another interesting one that could play out to have a different result. There they are, coming through turn 4, up the hill to Mercedes. I think Ford is the blue and white building on the right-hand side, so not all, but many motor manufacturers. And then there's also a lot of garages owned by private individuals that do tuning, and Zwartkops a nice place to set up a car.
Into the final turn, they are now split by about half a second.
Yeah.
Actually, three tenths.
Yeah, so it's close. There's actually a bit of drafting, or you can slipstream down the straightaway next to the road, as well as up the hill to turn 5. So whoever gets the better exit out of turn 4 could be very menacing. If he gets a better exit, Picky, it could be a challenge to Timo up at turn 5. He's not close enough at this stage. Let's see once they get through the corner. Now is where it counts. Going up the hill. Look at this battle, 3 cars ahead of them. Certainly is closing up, and time is running out with 5.5 minutes to go. So certainly there are some battles. I say again, Mornay Deploy now very close to Peter Murray. So there's also a battle that's coming up. That's for 7th and 8th, with Peter Murray leading. Oh, he had a look, and then I think he would have run into the back of him, Picky.
That was close.
Yeah, I think he had a good exit close to turn 8.
And Deeb, I think, he managed to save it. He looked like he was about to spin. He must have got very sideways, but he's lost all that extra ground that he had gained on Picky there. Sorry, on Timo.
Now with Picky behind Timo, it's Timo Smit only 0.7 of a second behind Deeb, and Picky has lost all that 3.5 seconds behind Timo Smit now. So Timo Smit now hunting Deeb Khamildin.
And this is now a 3-way battle here, so the 3 of them are nice and close together.
Yeah, it's Peter Murray, Mornay Deploy that are very close. Sorry, Picky Stander, Peter Murray, Mornay Deploy, and every time it's less than a second, 0.6 of a second between each car there. So a mistake made there by Picky, and now he's got Peter and Mornay right there behind him.
Of course, this is Picky's first season with us, so we don't have any information regarding his previous seasons, but showing good pace for I guess, new to sim racing driver.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call him a rookie, because if he is a rookie, then he has a very natural talent and is doing very well. Okay, clipping the curb, going out of turn 2, I think that's not what you want to do, because that makes the back end of the car light, and as I say, it's an off-camber corner with the elevation change, so certainly you want the car settled going through there. Nice Red Bull colours for Mornay Deploy here.
Very, very close to Peter there. You can see gaining on him through the corner there. This was the part of the track where he lost out of this, the Mercedes bend here. He just didn't have the traction. Seems fine this time around.
Right, as they go down the hill with not much time to go still. Well, they're going to do 3 laps, I should imagine. These cars are going to do. The race leader, depending how far ahead he is, might do 1 more. But look how close they are for those positions. Turn 1, I don't think, is the place to try and overtake. Turn 2 is a well-known place to overtake, depending how defensive the driver in front does drive. He keeps his normal racing line, which is unusual. Maybe turns in a little bit early, which blocks the line off. Then he allows the car just to drift out to the left-hand side as they exit the corner. and then go down the back straight, the longest straight of the two, towards turn 4. Nothing's changing, but I tell you, the ferocity of the battle, it's half a second now that Timo is behind Adib, and Picky 3.3 seconds behind Timo Smith. So Picky has dropped off for some reason. He might have made a mistake somewhere, but certainly there are battles all over the show. Timo Smith is in one of them. Cars off the with the wheels on the right, off the circuit out of turn 7. So, oh, there's the concrete wall. That's just after the finish line, and that's not where you want to put it, Adib. Cement is very unforgiving.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if his steering wheel is a little bit lopsided now.
Yeah, and there's Timo Smith, and I'm not sure who it is behind Timo Smith, but that also was very, very close. But Timo Smith has got now between himself and Adib. Look, I think Adib got probably the luck of the day, because he's still only half a second behind Timo. But Timo was further down. He's 6.6 seconds behind Jason Underwood, so that's not going to happen. But certainly Adib chasing Timo, and he had a very, very lucky moment up against the barrier on the front straight between turn 8 and turn 1.
And looking at the driver stats, they don't tell the full story. So they're saying that Adib's highest position in a championship is only 23rd. It's very hard to believe, but he's never completed a complete championship with us. He's definitely got the pace to finish way higher than 23rd. As we've seen, he's able to win races. So that's a very misleading stat.
Yeah. So I think he's just backed it off now a bit. He doesn't seem to be as close as what he was. Yeah, it's a second now, the gap. Maybe he's just decided the points that I have are better worth than no points. Pakistando further back behind them, so the gaps are now 0.8 of a second between Timo and Adib, and 1.8 seconds between Adib and Picky. Let's see where else. Peter Murray is only 0.6 of a second behind Dinash.
Dinash
So
is
this
now,
could
yeah,
be-
nice battle behind him. Three-way battle, yeah.
Yeah. So it's Peter, it's Dinash that is
Peter
ahead of
and
Peter
Jeffrey, yeah.
And Jeffrey, yeah. So there's still something to fight for, although on the stopwatch it looks, or if you look at the lap scoring monitor, it looks so close, but in real life, as they come past Ford and then past Mercedes into turn 5, there's actually about 5 car lengths. So it just goes to show these cars are really going along. If half a second is this distance apart, then one thinks it's very close, but you actually have to fight really hard to catch up that distance. As we have run out of time, has the race leader gone and he's already got the flag?
Has he? Have I been sleeping?
He might not, because I think he's down the back straight. So I think we might have run out of time when he'd already crossed the finish line. So now's the final lap. There, we get it up now. So I think I saw the Flying Bumblebee. Sorry, Gerrit, that we don't give you much of a mention, but I thought I saw the Flying Bumblebee go down the back straight, and here it comes down the hill from Zwartkops Owners Club and past BMW for the final time for the checkered flag. And let's see if it gets the checkered flag where I said it should, at that SA flag. Yes, it does. So they've got the finish line right. The graphics and everything here amazes me. It's that Donny into the gravel. Hopefully he can get it out of the gravel without being stuck there. So on the final lap, maybe trying for a bit of glory, one position. Timo Smith, everybody held on to, as we mentioned. So it was Gerrit from Genre in second, Jason Underwood in third, Timo Smith in fourth, Adib Gemildin in fifth position, Pakistaner sixth, Morne Deploy was in seventh, Neil Swartz in eighth, Dinash Singh hanging on for ninth, Peter Murray 10th, Jeffrey Rouse in 11th, Donovan Vermaak, I think still needs to cross the line. Here he comes now out of turn 8. Passes the SA flag and he makes it into 12th position. Julian Brains, I think, was further down, was just 0.2 of a second behind. So Julian Brains in 13th position. Donny Stander, we saw going into the gravel, so he's a lap behind. Michael Rabellini in 15th, a lap behind. Gavi Goos, a lap behind in 16th. Ilke Verenga in 17th, and Arjan and Belder and Andre Hildebrand both posting DNFs. So 17 cars complete the race, and that's it for this race. I suppose we wait for the results and then Dennis will take us off into race 2.
Yes, we're going to head off to an ad break in a moment. So we'll be back shortly, well, probably about 5 minutes 5 to 10 minutes while we set the grid for race 2. So we will be back shortly. Right, welcome back everybody. You are now live for race 2 of the Sim Experience South Africa Toyota GT4 Cup, coming to you live from Zwartkops Raceway in Pretoria. This is race 2, another 20-minute race. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined once again by Sean Woodgate.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Dennis. Race 1 was great. Let's hope we have the same in race 2.
And apologies for the video in between. I had the wrong picture on there, so the track showing was actually next week's race, but we are racing at Zwartkops tonight. Right, we're just waiting for the drivers to head out as they now head out on their formation lap. Stan Bazade note saying good luck all and go Dinash.
Certainly it makes a difference starting from the front.
So we have Adib starting in pole position again. The last time that happened was at East London, where he took the race victory. We have Neil starting in second place. I believe he was also up there in East London. So this could be very interesting. Neil won his first race last week. He showed the pace at East London. He's now up there with Adib, who's got the pace and will maybe hold him up. We've got Jason in third, who could definitely win. Garrett is now in fifth place. So this could be a very, very interesting race.
We were just chatting. Gerrit must be getting used to starting in second race, because he's won, I think, all of the races that he's qualified on pole. But yes, it makes life very difficult.
Right, let's get some basic information up so we know who we're driving with. Right, as Adib heads up to the grid. Drivers all take their slots now. Warm up their tyres as best as they can. Team IBF for the best show indeed. Nash has been showing some good pace, so hopefully he can get a good result now. He was involved in some really nice battles in race 1, so let's see if that carries over to race 2. As we now wait for the clock, which has just started timing down. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. And we're away.
Everybody's well behaved through turn 1. There's 2 sets of wheels on the right. Everybody back on the tarmac. Adib's still in the lead. Looks like Jason's up to second, ahead of Neil Swartz.
Oh, Neil going off track there and going across the track. Hopefully he didn't catch anyone, but I think that's going to drop him a few places.
Let's hope it didn't. He seems to be back. But that's Gerrit's car, I think, in the multicolored yellow and pink livery.
Yeah, so Gerrit up to third place there.
Gerrit's had a good start, very definitely, and that only in a question of 2 corners. So things happen to his favour. He's got a nice piece of open track between himself and the first and second cars, and he's not too worried about Jean-Ray behind him, because that's about 3 car lengths. They can concentrate on his own race as they complete the first lap of the second race.
Of course, Jean Rudetoy also coming through the pack, following Gerrit up to 4th place.
Right, they seem to be away from the rest by quite a distance. Let's see where it is.
Who was that going off? Was that Timo? It was Timo that just went off there.
He seems to be back on. Just have a quick look for him. Now, Timo is still in 5th. So if it was him that went off, then he held on to his position. It was just more dust than actually the car going off the circuit. But behind Picky Standard. So I think they were involved in the first race. I think it was the other way around, but nonetheless. So certainly things can happen there. There's a door left wide open and taken. Thank you very much. There's Donnie's car in the background. So Donnie's in 11th. You can't miss that bright green car. So let's see what happens at the end. Oh, Jason's taken first and Gerrit has followed him. It might have been, where has Adib is down to 15th. We missed that. we were down in mid-pack, and Adib must have had a moment and gone off. Jason's in Gerrit in second, and Jean-Ray du Toit in third. Here they come.
Yes, I'd love to know what just happened. I'm going to see if I can find a replay for us.
Right, so Jason certainly made the best of that. Jean-Ray puts in a best lap of everybody, a 101.658, and Gerrit Beekes in second place. He will now be seeing what Jason does on which corner. That's one of the corners, if you're close enough, you can think of overtaking. But remember, if you overcook it, you're going to go straight, and you're going to be into the gravel. Jason takes the normal line.
So replay of the team.
Turn 1. And he got through turn 1 okay. Oh, he got it squarely on the brakes into turn 2. And through the rest of bed, not well, he's lucky. He's very lucky. The cars, they actually waited for the others. I must say the R Factor 2 is very forgiving because the cars don't normally get out of the arrestor bed that easily. The trick is to go beyond the arrestor bed and come through on the grass. But nonetheless, so he did it all on his own, and look at all the positions that he's lost. And where he was, he's actually dropped one to Jeffrey Rouse now, and Adib is down to 18th position. So up at front, it's still Jason from Gerrit from Picky. So Timo Smit onto that 4th position, and they are all very, very close together. The gap is between Gerrit and Picky, that's about 2.5 seconds, but Timo Smit only half a second behind Picky Standard. Morne Deploy in 7th, has Dinesh Singh right in front of him as you see them go up to turn 5.
Here comes Monet, that nice looking camouflage car with a Red Bull sponsor on the bonnet.
Yeah. And then as you crest, it's like what we call the tabletop. From the commentary tower, if the cars are tall enough, you can see the fins of the cars, but you sort of look at the lap scoring monitor to identify the car as to where they are, and normally nothing really happens between turn 5 and 6. It's coming down the hill. Yeah, turn 8 is also an opportunity for overtaking if somebody gets turn 8 wrong, but at this stage everybody just holding their positions. There's turn 2 now, change of elevation down on the way to the rifle range grandstand. Yes, this was definitely the part going the other direction towards the drive-in on the old circuit. Just looking at the location of the grandstand tells me that it was a piece of track going the other way. It probably was resurfaced when they built the new track completely to have continuity of the tarmac, but yes, fond memories of the old Zwartkops circuit. A lot of it which we as commentators, the driving section, we were blind to completely, so we put a commentator in the grandstand with a walkie-talkie to tell the main commentators if there were any happenings on the grandstand section of the circuit. But certainly the things are happening in the front. Gerrit Beekes only a third of a second behind Jason Underwood. Donnie Stander, Donnie's in 11th and he's chasing, he's 2 seconds behind Julian Brains, but he's got Jean-Ray Dippenaar right there behind him. So that's a battle that's also raging.
And that was a surprise entry by Dippenaar. Dippenaar and Olivier joining at the last moment for race 2.
Right, nice to see Jean-Ray out on circuit and having a good race thus far.
Good battle here between Julian at the moment and Donovan from Mark.
Donovan in 9th, Julian in 10th, and the gap is only 1/4 of a second. So anything can and more than likely will happen as they change. Oh, there's a bit too late on the brakes there.
I think that was Monet.
Wait and see the camouflage car, I think that you mentioned. Is that the Caribbean United car?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, as he drops down to 8th position. So, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. If you get a little bit late on the brakes into turn 5, it does bite. Especially if you're on the left-hand side of the circuit, it's the normal racing line, but if you're on the brakes and the car goes straight, then you're going to be on the part of the track that has all the little bits of rubber which act like marbles and actually assists you off the circuit. Everybody very circumspect going through turn 2 for the time being. Morne will have to be fighting back. What's he, half a second behind Andre Hildebrand? Hildebrand for the veterans, the masters, running in 7th position with a very, very good position for him. So he's doing very well. The other veteran that I know of, Javi Gous, in 20th position, a DNF for Sean Olivier. Down at the bottom, not sure what happened to Sean, but a DNF for him nonetheless.
Right, as we're watching Andre with Monet lurking in the background.
Right, so Monet is trying his best. Andre Hildebrand, let's see what their last laps were. A 103.3 by 103.4 by Andre, and a 106 by Monet. So the last lap, certainly Monet was a lot slower than what Andre was. And you have to get a good lap together to be able to challenge the driver ahead of you. If he's consistently putting in better lap times than what you are, then you are going to battle to pass. See the last sec.
Monet is getting closer and closer. He's planning this. He's building up. He's going to make a move up the inside into Mercedes. I think he's a bit too far back. Unless he gets really good drive here, which he might, because Andre's run wide.
Now, their lap times are different by in the hundredths of a second, so it looks a lot closer, but here they're onto the brakes again, depending who's bravest on the brakes, and off the brakes. Earliest then gets a little bit of a lead again, the concertina effect. Out of turn 6 coming down the hill to turn 7, yes, the drivers are working really hard. You don't get a moment's rest once you approach turn 5. It's busy all the way until you get through turn 8 again, which they are now. Then there's a bit of time just for flexing the fingers, but you've got to position the car well. The inside is not a good line for an overtake on turn 1 because your natural momentum is going to carry you out and you're going to be into the car ahead of you. Well, but that's not the way to take turn 1. So maybe there might be a change there. We'll have to wait and see. But Andre Hildebrand putting the cars up on the curb and quite a lot of the curb being used. And does that mean that Monet is still only a quarter of a second behind him?
It's going to jump to another battle because we have Adib and we have Neil right behind Michael Rabellini. So I believe they both have incidents. They've ended up further back down the grid as they now look like they were about to get past Michael, but he's managed to stay ahead of them.
Yeah, Michael certainly has a fight on his hands. Adib making that big mistake at turn 5 and losing fistfuls of positions. And let's see if he can do anything. Turn 4 is not the place really to try and overtake. Unless the guy ahead of you makes a mistake, then you can come on. If he drifts wide, then you can come up on the inside on the right. But here we see Neil Swartz. He's going to take that right-hand line that I mentioned earlier. And is he going to block? He's going to make it work very well. I mentioned it quite a while back that the decision is, do you take the defensive line or your normal racing line into turn 5? In this case, Neil Swartz had good momentum and got up on the inside. He was very good on the brakes and he just took the position. Thank you very much. Now Neil will be chasing very hard to get onto Michael Rabellini. As I said before, turn 1 is not the place to try and make a start. If the driver positions the car to the left, you can think about turn 2, which he does, and he does it with the greatest. Oh, behind them, a spin by Adib, all on his own. Looks as though turn 2, he doesn't like that one very much.
No, it's twice now he's done that.
Yeah. It's a tricky corner. Well, turn 1 is tricky already because, as I said, there's a slight off camber, but that the guys don't necessarily know about. But turn 2 has a massive elevation change, so you've got to be very gentle into turn 2, or the back end's going to step out on you, as it's done with Adib now twice. So Neil Swartz says thank you and thank you again, because now he's got Michael Rabellini 1.3 seconds behind him, and he can set off and see if he can catch up to 7.3 seconds to Peter Murray.
Hilke actually having a good race as well. He's in 17th at the moment, but quite consistent, good lap times. He's improving. So good to see Hilke's actually starting to flow a little bit better as he's getting used to his new hardware.
But in the meantime, the fastest lap to Jean-Ray de Toy, 101.4, even though he's in 5th position. He's holding on to 5th. He's only 0.6 of a second behind Pikkie Stander. So Pikkie Stander in 4th, Timo Smit in 3rd, Gerrit Beker still in 2nd position, 0.3 of a second behind Jason Underwood, who still holds on to the lead. There's Jean-Ray in 5th position.
Of course, the battle at the front is still Jason with Gerrit right behind him. So this battle is going on. 8 minutes to go. Will Jason be able to hold him off?
Now, as we said, we think Zwartkops isn't a track that is going to be heavy on tires in the time period that we run the race. So maybe let's throw one race meeting, just a double length race in on a circuit to see the guys how they do consider their tires. That would be interesting, because I think with the time that we run these races and the nature of the circuits, I don't think we would have had any stress. One of the drivers in the interview last week, I said the tires do get hot, but there's not excessive tire wear. Now, a hot tire doesn't, you've got to consider, otherwise it starts blistering, and you don't want that to happen either. So they allow them to cool down on the straights, and if there's enough of the straight bits, then the tire does cool down. And at Zwartkops turn 4, I don't think is too vicious on tires, so you can use the back straight turn 4 and going up the hill to turn 5 to cool tires down. So I don't think Zwartkops will be so bad on tire wear. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think maybe the outer front tire might take a bit of a beating in turn 2 because of the off camber. You're leaning on the front quite a lot. And I think the rest of the corners probably left rear, because you it's fast flowing and you're on the power. So it might be even, but I think the left side definitely take a bit more of a beating than the right side, but I don't think it's going to be too heavy.
Yeah. So at this stage, Gerrit, he's given up a bit of distance to Jason. 0.7 of a second, you can see it actually in the visuals. Jason holding on very nicely. And it just goes to show Jason was P3 in the original qualifying, and even with the reverse grid, you stay in P3, everything pivots around you. And then just being in the right place at the right time with the others making the mistakes, you've got to be in it to win it. And the old saying, you've got to first finish to finish first. So Pakistan are holding on for 4th.
There's some nice battles going on further back, some of them a bit large, but here we have Monet still right up behind Dean Ash. This battle has been pretty much like this the whole race, so good to see. We saw a penalty for Zwartkops moments ago. We now have a DNF for Zwartkops, so I'm not sure what happened, but he has decided it's a DNF, so perhaps the car was damaged and he tried to pit and something went wrong.
Right, so 2 DNFs for this race, Sean Olivier and Zwartkops. And Ariane Baldo, who was in the comments for many of the season, for many races of the season, is actually on the circuit but a lap down, as also is Adib now a lap down, would you believe it? And Hilke Verenga is also a lap down. Michael Robellini is still on, he's 48 seconds back, but he's still on the same lap as the race leaders. Neil Swartz dropped down all the way to 15th after he was running so well earlier on, and we'd expect him to be back racing hard. Here's Monet Deploy, and who's that with him? Monet Deploy chasing on Dinash, yeah.
Who's that going off there? Is that Adib or is that Julian that was off there?
Adib, he's got a DNF as Adib.
Then that was Adib, yes.
Yeah. So from pole to DNF, that's not a great race. Maybe one that he'll consider for discard. Do you discard the race meeting, or do you discard a single race?
There's 2 races that you discard. As far as I remember, there's 2 races, so it could be from any meetings, but your 2 worst races.
Okay, so I think Adib has a candidate for a discard.
Now, someone I'm surprised that hasn't moved forward more is Jean-Louis de Toy.
Yeah, he's in 5th. He's only half a second behind Pakistan. So maybe it's getting to the stage where tire wear needs to be considered. 4 minutes 20 to go. So they'll complete probably, they might complete 4 laps, or when they cross the 4th lap will be for the checkered flag, because as I said that, I looked at the clock and it was, no, actually it's only 4 minutes 6 now. So we'll have to wait and see whether they do 4 laps or 5, depending where they are when the flag goes down.
It looks like the sun is starting to set as well, so that might become an issue right at the end, depending. I don't think it's too much of an issue.
Now, the sunset at Zwartkops, I'm just trying to think now from the morning to the evening. The sun rises as we were standing in the commentary tower to our right over turn 4 and sets to our left over turn 3. So for the drivers, they're going the other way around, so it'll probably be a problem going into turn 1.
Oh, you saw there a mistake for Picky, and Jean-Louis has managed to get past.
Yeah, you don't do well with the right-hand tyres on the dirt out of turn 7, and then turn 8 becomes a bit of a nightmare because you're leaning on those dirty tyres going through turn 8. Here's somebody off as well in turn 2. They will seem either getting back or in the distance there.
I think that was Ariane Baldo.
Yeah, so turn 2, as I forecast, with the change of elevation, and if you get it wrong on the brakes, then you're guaranteed into the gravel. As I said, it's not a trick, but it's to release enough that you actually get through the gravel bed and onto the grass beyond it, and then also drive out of it. But if you try and turn the car too fast in the gravel, that doesn't usually work so well. So Jean-Ray is going to be quite chuffed about that. There's Donnie Stander. Who's behind Donnie Stander? Jeffrey Rouse. So Jeffrey Rouse is only 0.8 of a second behind Donnie. So he's got everything to race for, with still 2 minutes 20 some odd to go.
And right in front of Jeffrey is Donnie. Of course, Donnie's been around a long time, having a good race tonight.
Yeah, I don't think Donnie has any chance of catching Julian Brains. It's 5 seconds between them. Julian stuck in 10th position, and he's 1.1 second behind Andre Hildebrand. So very creditable top 10 finish for Andre Hildebrand. So certainly it's a race within the race for the veterans, that Andre is doing well for that one. Donnie Stander in the green car, and he's chasing, well, he's not chasing, but he's 5 seconds behind Julian Brains. Julian only half a second behind Andre, so that might still change.
Yeah, so Julian, I think, has had a bit of a ragged meeting so far because he had decent pace. He just hasn't quite put it all together tonight. I think generally the team has had a bad meeting, of course, with Adib having a DNF now. Didn't have a great first race. He had the pace when he had pole position for race 2, but just too many issues, too many problems, too many mistakes. Couldn't put it all together.
Yeah, the thing is, because laps are over so quickly at Zwartkops, it's a minute, just a little bit more than. So you've got to master all these corners consistently, because in a, what was this, 25-minute race or 20-minute race?
20 years.
You're going to, 20 minutes, you're going to do 20 laps, virtually guaranteed. So, and it's a lot of work. It might not sound like much, 20 laps, but you're working all the time. As I said, you get to relax a little bit going down the back straight, and then you've got to position the car correctly, just steer it through turn 4, relax a little bit up the hill, but then you've got to be right on the game again to get your markers right for the braking for turn 5. As we see, that's also bitten 1 or 2 drivers tonight, has been turn 5. Down the straight, turn 4, through a nice flowing run through turn 4. I think for these cars, potentially flat out. And if you get the exit right, was that the Minions car?
Ooh, a penalty for Birkus. What is that for?
Oh, that's Gerrit. He's only 0.9 of a second behind Jason. I wonder if it's curbs. It's one of the things we haven't mentioned yet, that you can do the curbs, but you mustn't overdo the curbs, because the system would penalize you. Is that just a warning, or is that a penalty, Dennis?
That is a penalty by the looks of it.
Okay, so here's the last lap now, and Gerrit will probably have that indicated to him in the car. Would that then be added to his race time? Not sure if it's a 5 second or whatever it is.
I'm not sure what it's for, so I don't know what the penalty would be, but yeah, that is peculiar.
If he gets 5 seconds, he might end ahead of Jean-Ray de Toy, still in 3rd. Oh no, I'm lying. Jean-Ray's 1 second, 2, 3, 4. Yes, he'll finish ahead of Dinash in 5th. He might be behind Picky. So there goes Jason Underwood, from 3rd up to 1st. Timo Smith, Gerrit, there they're dropping Gerrit down to 4th now. So I think the penalty gets applied immediately, and they've left him in 5th. So that's probably a 5 second penalty. The system seems to have applied the penalty automatically, and Gerrit, he's dropping further down. That's interesting. And he carries on dropping further down. So that's very interesting as to what that was for. So let me just say who did win and where they finished. So Jason gets a first. Timo Smith is going to be chuffed for the Minions Racing team, all on his own. Second place, Jean-Ray de Toy, welcome back. Best lap and 3rd position. Picky Stander in 4th, so good recovery for Picky there. And Dinash Singh in 5th position. Morne Deploy, Jean-Ray de Bernard, Andre Hildebrand, Julian Brains, and Donnie Stander rounding off the top 10.
Ooh, nice side-by-side finish there for Michael. I'm not sure who that was with.
I'm not sure if that was for position or whether it was a back marker. It might be Hilke, because Hilke is 60 seconds behind. So it might be Michael Rabellini and Hilke Verenga.
And
Because the
that
other
is the
cars-
end of the race. We'll discuss this in a moment. Let's go to an ad break quickly, and we'll hopefully figure out what on earth happened to Gerrit. But we'll be back shortly, so stay with us. We're just going to get the top 3 drivers when we eventually figure out who they now are, and we'll be with you for the top 3 interviews. Catch you shortly. All right, so welcome back, everyone. We, of course, are live for the end of the Sim Experience South Africa Toyota GT4 Cup Round 3 from Zwartkops in Pretoria. Unfortunately, we have the top three with us, but there was a glitch in the system. So our top three drivers are Jason Underwood in first, Jean-Louis du Toit in second, and Timo Smit in third. But unfortunately, this is due to a glitch in the system, dropping Gerrit Beekes from second down. Well, it gave him what Gerrit is with us, so I don't have Gerrit on screen, but Gerrit is with us. Gerrit, maybe we can just start with you and just do a quick catch-up before we do our usual interviews. You were in second place. What happened?
Yeah, I actually don't know what happened. You know, I didn't have any track cuts or any warnings or anything like that. So I think it was the last lap. And I just slightly, just with the wheel on the right hand side, just touched the grass, and I saw the warning come up, and I knew it was probably a mistake. So yeah, it's just something we can sort out. But yeah, in the second race following, Jason was kind of hectic. The brakes really heats up. So yeah, I didn't have anything for him tonight.
Yeah, it's a shame it gave you a stop-go penalty, and because you don't serve it, it gives you a 30-second penalty, which dropped you completely out of the points. So we will try and rectify that manually afterwards. But yeah, sorry about that. But
No problem.
Good race otherwise. Then let's head on to what is classified as our top three overall. Jason Underwood in first place, Jean-Louis du Toit in second, and Timo Smit in third. Let's start with Jason. Jason, welcome back to winning ways. Good to see you in first place and fighting at the front again. We know from practice that we did pre-season that you were quite decent around this track. You had the fastest time in our pre-season testing. How did the races go for you tonight?
Yeah, Dennis, first of all, hello to yourself and Sean. That was tough. Really tough. I mean, Jean-Louis and Gerrit are by far quicker than anybody. So to get a top three, I'm pretty happy, and to get a race win in the second race, that was mentally, physically draining with Gerrit behind you for 23 minutes of it. But it's good to be back on the top step. It's been a long time. Jean-Louis, he reminded me very nicely before we came on air. But yeah, no, it was good fun. It was really good fun, and happy to be back.
Oh, congratulations. Then in second place, Jean-Louis, it looked like a little bit of a, I think I still commentated on it about 10 minutes into race 2. You were still sitting in fifth place or fourth place. I think it was fifth place at that point. And then everything seemed to change. Picky went off, it released you, and you then ended up all the way up to third, and then with a drop of Gerrit, you ended up in second overall. So quite a weird change of results, and in the result you ended up second overall. So it looked like it wasn't going to be the greatest results for you this meeting, but in the end you've salvaged from it. So what was the meeting like for you? Race 1 seemed a bit like you were chasing Gerrit, just didn't quite have the pace to catch him enough to make a challenge, and race 2 looked like you were just struggling to get past Picky up until 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, with on this track I really struggle with consistency. I could put in a fast lap, and I think that's why I got fastest lap in both races. But then I would catch someone, I'd make up half a second on them, and then I'd fall back and lose a second. My consistency was the big problem here. I just couldn't keep a consistent lap time at all. And I had an incident with Gerrit. Luckily he didn't spin out, but I did. And then I couldn't come back on track soon enough because Timo and Picky was behind me. So I just had to slot in behind them, and then yeah, I struggled to get past Picky. They had decent pace, and yeah, but we spun when I went onto the grass, and I could get past him luckily. Then I tried to chase Timo, but yeah, he was just a bit too fast.
And we heard Gerrit talking about brakes. Did you have any issues with your brakes being behind the guys, with them overheating, maybe increasing your braking distance a bit?
On some corners, yes. I would have some issues. I think maybe that's why I also hit a couple of guys in the back, because I would brake and they would just be nothing, and then I would just hit someone.
All right, well, congratulations on second.
Thank you.
And in third place, bringing the Minions car back to the front. Welcome, Timo. Congratulations on your third place. Good to have you back again. You look like you struggled a bit tonight, but managed to salvage third overall. Give us a rundown on your meeting for race 1 and race 2.
How's it, Dennis? Yeah, well, provisionally third, so I'm going to take the cup and run after these interviews. I'll share the champagne with Gerrit afterwards. He's just around the corner. So yeah, I don't. It was sweaty with the VR, especially, and in Cape Town with the temperatures that we currently have. But all in all, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, like Jason also said, basically half a second behind the aliens, the fast guys in front, so that makes it a bit difficult. The consistency was a lot better this time around, so glad with that. And yeah, well done again to Jason and Jandre and Gerrit for the excellent results.
And before we say goodbye to you, just comparing the different tracks. So we've had very fast East London, we've had Knockhill, and now we've had this, which is sort of not quite as tight as Knockhill. Which track do you think suits the car best?
Can you ask the question to the faster guys? I struggle on all the tracks, so maybe Gerrit.
Or perhaps Gerrit, would you like to answer that?
I think the shorter tracks, the bumpy tracks, doesn't suit this car at all. The car's really stiff, and it comes nose light. So yeah, I think the faster tracks, maybe Kailami we're going to, will suit the car better. A little bit wider, a little bit longer, you know?
Okay. All right, then, Sean, would you like to ask the drivers any questions before we say goodnight?
No, I think the only one thing that we discussed in commentary is, do you guys actually get a chance to rest the hands out? I'm looking at the logo going by in the background. As you exit turn 3, I suppose, turn 3 at the grandstand on your left, there's a bit that you can flex the fingers, drive it through turn 4 up the hill. That's about, I think, the only time that you aren't that active around the circuit. It's a circuit doesn't keep you very busy. I'll post that to Jason.
I don't know if you've noticed, Sean, but I've got a massive bumblebee behind me for 22 minutes. I've got Paul Walker's Supra behind him for 23 minutes. There's no time to rest with these guys around. But no, it's a lovely scenic track, I think. Like Gerrit was alluding to earlier, it's the shorter, tight, twisty ones. The car, you've got to fling the car into the corners, but when you get up to the top of the track, it was quite scenic and it was quite nice to watch, other than your rearview mirror.
And then turn 2 with a big elevation change down and the hairpin to the right. Is that possibly the most difficult corner on this track? Let me ask Andre that question.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to lose the rear there because of the elevation change. But for me, that one was actually fine. I think it was the 4th corner just before you go uphill. That corner for me, so for some reason, was the hardest.
Yeah, that's a sweep to the right.
Yeah.
I suppose you guys just get off the throttle and then floor it again going through turn 4. That one.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is my home track from a real life commentary perspective, so I know it intimately, and I think you guys gave it a really good accolade. The circuit was well driven, I think, by most, but some guys didn't listen in commentary. Well, they're driving, but yes, turn 2 and turn 5 tend to bite you if you don't get the brakes right. But back to you, Dennis.
All right, I'm going to say goodbye to the drivers. We're going to drop you all out for now. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations on your results.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so while the drivers are leaving, all right, everyone is now gone. So next up, we have the track that was in the graphic that shouldn't have been in the graphic during the break, Alton Park in the United Kingdom. This, I think, is going to be quite a challenging track for some of the drivers. It has lots of undulation, some very tight corners, some very fast corners. Some of the drivers really love the track, some of the drivers don't love it. So I think this is a track I know that Jason particularly likes. I think it could mix up the field a little bit. I'm pretty sure we're still going to see Gerrit near the front and Jandre near the front, but perhaps the guys in the mid-pack will be a little different because some of the corners are very, very tight. There's one particular corner which, as you look at it's sort of in the middle of the picture to the left, that tight right-hander, it's very tight, and if you just make a small mistake, there's not much runoff there and there's a wall there. So I think the drivers that are in the midfield are maybe going to be a bit more cautious, and that might mix up the pack a bit. Sean, do you know Alton Park at all?
Not at all. Haven't been there. I'll have to go and find something on YouTube for a lap around and for some markers to know my way around. So I don't know even what the track length is, to be quite honest.
It's 4.3 kilometers and 2.6 miles. But lots
Okay,
of undulation.
4.3.
The final sector drops is a heavy drop before it sort of drops into the one corner and then rises up the other over the finisher. There's lots of undulations like that, so it's going to unsettle the car a lot.
Okay, so it's quite a long circuit. If you take Zwartkops as only 2.4, then this is almost another 2 kilometers longer than that. So a nice long circuit.
Yes.
I should imagine if you look at it, the top section of the track as it was on the graphic.
Let me go back to that.
That used to be a continuous sweep, and then because it was too fast, they put that little chicane in there. That might have been the case in two positions, that they put a chicane in just to slow the cars down from what might have been in years gone by continuous sweeps. So, like they did at Le Mans in the Mulsanne Straight, broke it in half and put a chicane in just to slow everybody down. But looks like the comic guy out of La Linea. If you know the strip, they were like 30 seconds on TV. That guy. It looks like La Linea. So, but we'll see it next week.
All right, and after that, of course, next week is Alton Park. After that is the classic Kyle Army circuit from the 70s. Then it's Road Atlanta in America. Then back to South Africa for Aldo Scripante. Then Hockenheim in Germany. Then the current version of Kyle Army in South Africa. And then the final closing round of the championship is Valencia from Spain. So until next week, we will... Hopefully everyone has a good week, and we will catch you all next week. Thank you, Sean, very much for tonight, and thank you to everyone for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button, and we will catch you all next week.
Good night, everybody.